Hey guys, so I didn't get very far last time, but today I'm going to start filming part two of this project. The Kingdom Hearts project. It's how I used a video game to help me come to terms with my reality and accept where I am in my life. Um, let's just jump right in. So, I'm going to be starting by talking about Kingdom Hearts 2. When I started the second game, I had mixed feelings. Like I said, I wasn't happy with the way that the first game ended. I wanted more resolution than they gave. Really, I think that the resolution I wanted to see was for the things going on in my own life. But now, starting up this new game, to see some brand new character also frustrated me a bit. I wanted to see resolution for Sora, not some new story. But still, I played through the intro, and I found myself relating to Roxas more than I thought I could. There's something about Roxas that seemed dissociative. He wasn't fully there. I wasn't fully there in my life either. I was 14 when I started playing this game, and just a year earlier it felt like my world was completely shaken apart. I tried my best to stay out of the house. It honestly didn't feel like home at all. It felt like my parents were fighting even more than before, so I tried to spend as much time with friends as possible. After all, my new motto was, my friends are my power. Dang, there's like a glare on my glasses. Scoot forward a little, maybe get an angle so, yeah, less glare, less glare. Sunshine. Sunshine can change things. Let's just move over a little bit. Yeah, how's that? How's that? That looks good. All right. Um, where was I? It felt like my parents were fighting even more than before, so I tried to spend as much time with my friends as possible. All of Roxas's friends in the game seemed somewhat normal, at least for video game characters. But something felt off about Roxas. I could relate to that feeling. Something felt off about myself, and I couldn't quite figure out what was happening inside of me. Sora's memories were being transplanted into Roxas, and it seemed very symbolic of the repressed memories I had returning to me. My nightmares started to become clearer, and instead of dark, shadowy figures, I was now beginning to have more specific nightmares of old men having sex with me. Myself being held down so I couldn't move or get away. Oftentimes in the nightmares, I'd be held, like my face was being held into a bed and I was bent over. Um, it's like my own mind was begging me to remember who I really was and everything that had happened to me. I became scared. I didn't want to admit these things. So I kept shoving them down, and I chose to shove them down. I chose to shove down those memories, just like Roxas was shoved deep into Sora's subconscious. But just because something is pushed into your subconscious doesn't mean that it disappears. I think that's one of the lessons that this game had to offer for me. Looking back, it feels like all these games came at the perfect moment in my life. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, and inserting myself into the game more than Nomura intended. But either way, it doesn't matter, because I wholeheartedly believe that these games have been one of the biggest sources of healing for my life. Just as the first game was about the relationship between Sora and Riku, the second game seemed to be about the relationship between Sora and Roxas. As you know, as I told you in the last video, I see Sora as my personal representation for how I choose to present myself to friends and family. And I see Riku as a metaphor for the repressed side of myself. In this game, Roxas took over as the metaphor of the repressed side. Except this time, instead of holding it back, these emotions seemed to be bursting out of me, and I wasn't sure why. I wasn't sure what to do, so I just kept going through the days. Going to school, spending as much time away from home as possible. And when I would come home, I'd play this game. As the game progressed, Sora kept feeling Roxas within. And that changed the way he would act on the outside. Sometimes Sora would cry unexpectedly, or act aggressive in situations where he would normally stay calm. He'd feel emotions he couldn't explain. The way Sora would get triggered and frustrated by the taunting of the organization reminded me of the way I would get triggered by random people and random events almost every day. My heart is a battlefield. As the year went on, I kept refusing to look at my own repressed emotions. I began feeling more and more insane. I would act out in little ways that I didn't understand, and I would say things I didn't really mean. I would hurt people with the things I would say without meaning to hurt them. I'm sorry about that. I began to drink alcohol and smoke pot, and I took pills behind my parents' back. I was having the time of my life, hanging out with my friends, just like Sora. That was not right. I skipped a few lines, sorry. I began drinking alcohol and smoking pot and taking pills behind my parents' back. I was reckless. I would even go to school high or drunk. Some days I would be cheerful and I would have the time of my life hanging out with my friends, just like Sora. But on other days I would sit with a hood over my head and try and cover the sunlight from reaching my face, just like a nobody. My brain felt foggy and confused. But when I would try to get off drugs, I would become more fearful. I would become afraid to be around anyone, and all those nightmares would come back even stronger. Do you know what happens to those who lose their true purpose? Inevitably, they destroy themselves. And I was destroying myself. Talking about this stuff always brings some emotions that I'm not expecting to the surface. I've written about this. I've talked about it with people that are close to me that I trust, but I've never been open and honest about this stuff before. And something about just reading it out and putting out these videos, I can feel how nervous my heart is, how raw these emotions still are. And I don't really know what to say about all that. I have this fear of being judged and this fear of just being open with people. And I'm tired of that fear. And this is who I am. So I'm going to keep reading because I'm tired of hiding who I am. And it needs to be out there. Sora had defeated Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, but that didn't mean Xehanort's presence was gone from Sora's life. My grandma was now dead. My grandpa was no longer a threat to me, but that didn't mean that their presence was gone from my life. I honestly thought I was safe. I honestly thought that without them, I could finally be a normal kid. But I was wrong. You know what Sora, Riku, and Roxas represent to me. But Xehanort, and his many forms throughout the game, he represents my grandparents and their abuse, the memory of it and all the negative effects it's had towards me. It was Xehanort who ripped apart Sora's childhood home and sent him tumbling through the unknown. It was my grandparents who ripped apart my inner home. It was Xehanort who continued to haunt Sora and manipulate him throughout the games. It was the memory of my grandparents who continued to haunt me and manipulate me throughout the years. That darkness comes from your own dark memories. Do you think you can erase your past? Even though I was stubborn at the time, and still for years to come after this, looking back, I can see how this game was pushing me to confront my own dark memories from the very moment I started playing. When Roxas returns, he has a fight with Sora. Just as the sacrifice scene in the first game was one of the most important to me, this scene is the most important in the second. This fight scene is how that year of my life felt, just a constant battle between those two different sides of myself. The scene ends with Sora striking down Roxas and later reabsorbing him. This is another metaphor of what I did to myself during that year. I was not ready to face my personal darkness yet, but I was beginning to take small steps. I came to my parents expressing that I believed something was wrong with me. I asked them to get me tested for a psychiatric disorder, and I was diagnosed with bipolar. My mom also dealt with bipolar. She was diagnosed with it at the time. And so when we presented these issues to the doctor, he thought that it was most likely that I also had bipolar because my mom did. On one hand, it was hard news to deal with, to hear that you have a disorder. On the other hand, I was relieved because now I could get treatment for what I felt was my own personal insanity. We tried to treat the disorder without any medications at first. Only there was one problem. Many years later in my life, I'd find out I'm not actually bipolar. Instead, I was suffering from my memories. I was misdiagnosed, and because I was still refusing to deal with the traumas, I couldn't get better. Looking back, I wish I would have been more like Riku. Let's hold it for a second. When I say I wish I still wasn't ready to deal with the traumas, I wouldn't even tell the doctor about the traumas. I wasn't going to therapy. I didn't tell my parents about anything that happened to me. I didn't tell my doctor. I didn't tell my friends. I was the only one who knew that I was raped, and I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't. I was running away from it, and that's what I mean. I wasn't ready, and that's why one of the reasons the doctor misdiagnosed me. I didn't give him the full picture of what was really going on at the time, and I was mismedicated because of it. I didn't think it would have any negative side effects, but it was. It did. Looking back, I wish I could have been more like Riku. Just like Sora admits when they're together in the realm of darkness, I wish I could have just simply accepted my personal darkness. I was still trying to be. I wish I could have been more like Riku, just like Sora admits when they're together in the realm of darkness. I wish I could have simply just accepted my own personal darkness. I was still trying to be who I thought I wanted to be, not who I actually was. To accept it would still take more time for me. I mean, what else would the other games be for, right? I was too stubborn to accept it. I tried to wrap my mind around other things my heart. I mean, what else would the other games be for, right? I was too stubborn to accept it. I tried to wrap my mind around things my heart already knows, only to fail. Still, I needed the help of my friends. I still needed the help of my friends. I still needed to go through lessons the rest of these games had to teach me. I still needed to find my own determination to know myself so I can understand myself. If the world is made of light and darkness, we'll be the darkness. This game ends with Sora and Riku making it back to the realm of light and reuniting with their friends. Truthfully though, I wasn't ready for this. Just as Sora went back with Riku, I wouldn't ever be emotionally healthy until I could accept the things I was repressing. I had just begun to fall into my own personal darkness, and it would take me a few years to get out of it. I would continue to play the first and second games quite a few times throughout high school, as well as the others in the series to help make sense of the story. The next game that I played was Chain of Memories. I played this when I was 15 years old. Along the road ahead lies something you need. I needed to confront my true self, but in order to claim it, you must lose something that's dear to you. I needed to lose the concept of who I thought I was. In this place, to find is to lose, and to lose is to find. Proceed to lose and claim anew, or claim anew only to lose. I felt like there was something wrong with me. Why was I acting this way? Why was I having nightmares? Why was I okay one day and then completely depressed the next? Why was I acting out and taking drugs? I concluded that I must be insane, and the doctor's diagnosis of bipolar only seemed to confirm this conclusion. So I began chasing the concept of sanity. I wanted this pain to stop, and I wanted it to go away. I was raised in a Christian household, and Christians believe in good and evil, right? It wouldn't be till years later that I understood Buddhist concepts like suffering is the price of life. That was weird to me. What I was taught growing up was that suffering was a punishment from God, and I wanted to make myself better. I wanted to make myself good because I thought the reason I was suffering was because I was bad. Yeah. Take a sip of my tea real quick. Hope you guys like this. I don't know what's good. I don't know if this is good, if this video is worth anything really, but it feels like it's worth something to me. Even if it is weird and choppy. You guys can probably tell that I go into like repressed zones and then non-repressed zones. Like as I start reading this, I can feel the emotions rise, and there's this thing in the back of my head that says, push down those emotions. You just gotta keep reading. You gotta get it done. You gotta get it done. But that's why I take these moments to try and stop and just talk to you guys about things. This is my reminder that I don't just have to get it done. That these feelings, these things, these thoughts I'm having, they're all important. They're all important enough for me to share. And I don't have to keep hiding myself. So we tried things at first, like fixing my diet and giving myself a more consistent daily routine. These things didn't help the emotional pain I was feeling. My parents and I talked to the doctor, and we all came to an agreement to put me on an antidepressant. The moment Sora set foot inside this castle, the moment Sora set foot inside Castle Oblivion, he began losing his memories. And the moment I began taking antidepressants, I started losing myself. Our most precious memories lie so deep within our hearts that they're out of reach. In case you don't know, medications are not that useful of a treatment towards PTSD. I'm gonna start that one again. Our most I'm not high, by the way, you guys. Not today. I'm trying not to smoke pot anymore. I smoked some pot last time, and yeah, I've been smoking for quite a few years, but I'm not trying to smoke pot at the moment. I feel like the universe is pushing me to come clean, and yeah. So this is me sober. All these words that I keep tripping on, this is just my brain. Our most I did it again. Our most precious memories lie so deep within our hearts that they're out of reach. I began changing. The medication didn't help with my... Our most precious memories lie so deep within our hearts that they're out of reach. I began changing. The medication did help with my depression, but it acted more like a jolt of caffeine through my system more than anything else. I became jittery and my hands would shake when I was sitting still. My anxiety deepened, and even though I would hide it behind hyperactive behavior, I was still acting out. I felt compulsive. The worst part of the medication would be that it kept me up at night. And when I could sleep, I would still have those nightmares. I wasn't depressed like before, but I wasn't happy. I wanted to erase those memories and nightmares. I wanted an easy fix. The memory's wiles can be cruel. In its silence, we forget. In its obsession, it binds our hearts. As Sora progressed through the castle, he kept forgetting more and more things, and he kept changing in the process. Soon, he wasn't acting like himself anymore at all. He began forgetting about Kairi. He was getting in fights with Donald and Goofy. He still continued climbing up, farther and farther away from who he really is. I did the same. Beeping. You guys hear that beeping? Okay, beeping's done. It's a noisy neighborhood. So Sora continued climbing up, farther and farther away from who he really is. And I did the same. Obviously, the antidepressants were not working. After a while, the doctor decided to add on a mood stabilizer. Antidepressants in the morning and mood stabilizers before bed. I would fall asleep shortly after taking the stabilizer. It was a deep, heavy sleep, and the nightmares finally went away. However, the anxiety did not go away. I didn't feel happy, but I also didn't feel sad anymore. All I seemed to be able to feel was anxiety. I don't care. You can erase my memory. Erase my memories, destroy my heart. But by the time he had reached the top, Sora didn't even care if he could remember his true self anymore. He was willing to throw himself away. I could relate to this. At this time in my life, I would have rather held on to a lie of who I was than continuing to remember or feel a single thing from my past. I was determined to forget myself and all my pain. Imbeciles. Imbeciles. You would knowingly shackle your heart with a chain of memories born of lies? Got to do that Marluxia voice, right? Or something, I don't know. Bad Marluxia voice. Imbeciles, you would knowingly shackle your heart with a chain of memory born of lies? You would be the one who has a heart, but cast aside your heart's freedom? You turn from the truth because your heart is weak. I felt weak. This game ends with Sora going into a year-long slumber to restore his memories and repair his heart. I would go into an emotional slumber as well during this time, just for different reasons. I told my doctor about the anxiety I was having, and he prescribed me an anti-anxiety medication. This was the final piece of the puzzle that would put me to sleep. I didn't have nightmares anymore, and I didn't feel anxiety anymore. I didn't feel happiness, and I didn't feel sadness. My true memories would sleep inside me, but I didn't care. Everything just felt okay. That's what I wanted. I didn't seem to feel anything at all, just like a nobody. It's weird when you're dealing with pain for so long, how relieving it can be to have a few years where you just feel nothing. I know it's not any way to live, and I know you're just pushing down that trauma to deal with it later, but I was 15, dude. Sometimes your brain doesn't know how to comprehend or deal with this shit. It's a lot. I know I'm not the only one out there who's gone through these things. And so don't judge yourself too harshly, okay? I'm writing these things down and talking about them because it's important to look at your past, I believe, and share your experiences and understand yourself. But I'm not doing this to judge myself, and none of you guys should either. I don't think that it's very nice to your inner child to judge yourself that way. So the next game I played was 358 and a half days. I like calling it 358 and a half days because it ends halfway through the 359th day. But whatever. You could call it 358 over 2. I don't know. It's a weird title. I played this one when I was 16, right after I started taking my medications. I was going to school on a cocktail of psych meds, and it was quite the odd experience. Back and forth, to and from the same places every day. Roxas was a nobody. Nobodies were said to have hearts. Without a heart, one cannot feel anything. They're just wandering, empty vessels. This, to me, is just another one of those perfect metaphors. A metaphor of being on psych medications. You feel nothing. Nothing is real. It was funny because even though I couldn't feel anything at the time, I began making new friends, just like Roxas. I didn't have social anxiety anymore. People still didn't see me as normal, but I found I could actually fit in now. This seemed like a good thing to me, and when I told my parents and doctor I was making new friends, they seemed to think I was doing good as well. I also didn't feel the need to drink or smoke or do illegal drugs anymore. That's a good thing. Roxas executed his missions without much thought, and I went through day-to-day life without much thought. My teachers reminded me of the older organization members, like Syx or Zigbar or Vexen. I didn't like them very much. My new friends I was making seemed a bit like me. They reminded me of Axel and Shion and Demix. I didn't leave my old friends behind, but I started getting obsessed with my new ones. I didn't feel like my old friends from elementary school, C and R, could understand me at the time. But these new friends, they had the same types of problems that I had. They seemed to see life the same way that I did. I feel like they probably also had traumatic experiences at home. Not all of them, but some of them. And we connected through our pain. Everything that happened with these new friends seemed so important. Our connection started to mean everything to me. Even though I could barely feel, I felt connected to them. I wanted to make them happy. They were the reason I got up in the morning. This was the first time I felt like getting up and going to school was a positive thing. Roxas, you can work double duty, but that means you have to collect twice as many hearts. Friends need to lean on each other every now and then. Shion lost the ability to use the Keyblade. Roxas decided that he would go on missions with her and do her work. The closer I got to my friends, the more I realized they needed help every once in a while. They would ask me for that help. They would need somebody to talk to and help sort out their problems, so I did my best to help. I felt so proud. My parents were happy with me, my doctor was happy with me, my friends were happy with me, so I kept doing the best I could to be helpful. I hope we can always be just like this forever. One friend in specific needed a lot of help. I would be the one she turned to when she was feeling down. I'll call her M. This friend, M, had a problem with cutting herself. Most people didn't know, but she told me. When she would have problems with her relationships, other friends, parents, or teachers, she would need somebody to talk to. She would need somebody to cheer her up and watch anime with. But if nobody were around to help, she would end up cutting herself. I did my best to be her friend. I let her stay at my house and have sleepovers. I would invite her over for anime marathons after school, and I would go get special food with her. I was scared because to me, she was someone I couldn't bear to lose. Sometimes, no matter how much I would try to help, it wasn't enough. She reminded me of Shion. Shion would begin to leave and spend time with Riku, trying to find out who she really was. M started disappearing more and more to go hang out with other friends. She started leaving me all alone. She kept coming to me when she needed help, but then she didn't seem to have time for fun stuff or hanging out. It started to be a lot of pressure for me, and I started to have mood swings again. I didn't tell anyone, but sometimes I felt so bad I wouldn't know what to do. Cutting seemed to help her, so one day, when I felt desperate, I tried cutting myself too. It helped at first. I started to get addicted. Let's just stop and talk about cutting for a second, okay? Self-harm. It was silly, stupid of me to cut myself. And looking back, I can see that. At the time, I didn't know what to do or how to deal with it. I mean, the pain, the emotional pain I was feeling, the need to prove myself to the people around me and be helpful for them in order to feel like I was of any value, along with the feelings of abandonment that I was having with some of these friends. And self-harm can be very addicting. I'm sorry if this triggers anybody talking about it, but there are so much better things you could do, so many better ways that you could deal with that pain. Dude, even if you were sitting there smoking pot all day long, like, yeah, that's probably not the healthiest thing to do, but at least you're trying to find something to enjoy. And when you resort to self-harming, it's like saying that I don't believe that I can find joy anymore. And the only source of joy I can find comes from pain. And that's really sad. I just want you guys to, if you are self-harming, just try and reach out. Try and just find one thing that you could enjoy. I know how tempting it can be. I know that addictive feeling, like you need it to feel better, but seriously, just, if it means walking away from everybody else and isolating yourself in order to get away from all of everybody else's bullshit, then do that. If it means putting yourself out there and projecting yourself and demanding, hey, I need some attention from a friend or a family member, maybe you really do need attention. Demanding it's probably not healthy, but let them know that you're feeling that way, and just try to find something you can enjoy, even the smallest thing. For me, even though I was cutting myself, these Kingdom Hearts games, they're great. If you've never played Kingdom Hearts, dude, first off, I don't know what you're doing watching my video, but second, go play it. Like, if you are depressed and you need just a little bit of joy, go play this. Seriously. Roxas and Xion shared the same power. The stronger that Roxas got, the weaker Xion got. The stronger Xion got, the weaker Roxas got. And this was like my relationship with M. The more I gave her, the weaker I would get. The more my anxiety would start to rise again. And the more I would ask in return, and then she would get angry at me, telling me I was asking for too much. It was a vicious cycle. I started to feel used by M. I also didn't want to lose her. This was the deepest connection it felt like I'd ever had with another person. I would continue to defend her actions up until the end, just like Roxas would with Xion. And I would tell myself that this pain was just my bipolar acting up again. This cycle of give and take between Roxas and Xion would end by the time the game was over. But for me and M, the cycle would continue through the next year. Either way, it would eventually end the same way. Both Roxas and I would lose one of our best friends. Eventually, just like Xion, M would decide to leave. And just like Roxas, I would begin to lose who I thought I was. In the long run, this would be a good thing. In the long run, losing himself brought Sora back. In the long run, losing myself would get me back in touch with reality and get me off all of those pills. But this video is starting to reach about 30 minutes, so I think this is the time I gotta stop for now. That beeping. I mentioned the beeping and it stops. Isn't that funny? Yeah, I think this is where we're gonna stop for now. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I hope that it's not too triggery for anybody. I hope that you all get something from it, and that whoever sees this video, whoever needs to see this video sees it. Whoever needs to know that somebody else is out there dealing with this shit can see it. Because, like, if you are young and you're going through these experiences, if you're in, like, high school or something and you're watching this video, just know that it does get better, but you have to stop denying what happened to you. You have to stop trying to cover it up and run away from it, because it's never going to get better if you don't stop doing that. And sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to do that. But if you do hit rock bottom, especially if you're young, just know that's a good thing. Everybody hits rock bottom at some point, and maybe you'll hit your rock bottom early, and you can spend the rest of your life healing and moving forward and finding ways to enjoy yourself and live comfortably in your skin. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.